After a tough night in Vancouver, Reinier de Ridder's longtime coach Harun Ozkan has spoken publicly for the first time since his fighter's corner stoppage loss to Brendan Allen at UFC Vancouver. De Ridder, who came in as the betting favorite and a former Division I championship champion, was expected to make a statement in his second UFC appearance. Instead, the Dutchman struggled to maintain his pace after a strong opening round, ultimately gassing out and failing to answer the bell for the fifth. Ozkan, who has guided de Ridder since the early days of his career, released a heartfelt statement on Instagram explaining the decision to throw in the towel. "Last night didn't go as we wanted. After a very strong start in the first round, things quickly started fading, and we couldn't really recover from the shots in and after the second round. I made the call to stop the fight after the fourth round. I take full responsibility for that decision, and it was the right call to make for me in the moment." He continued by emphasizing that his first duty as a coach is to protect his athlete, even when that means disappointing fans or derailing momentum. "It's not a decision I ever wanted to make, but sometimes you have to. My job is to coach, but also to look out for my fighter's health. If I didn't do anything, he would have continued the fight. Rather than risk unnecessary damage, I decided to call it a day and go home as healthy as possible. Live to fight another day." The stoppage drew mixed reactions from fans, with some accusing de Ridder of quitting, while others praised the corner for making a humane decision in a brutal sport. Ozkan directly addressed that criticism. "I absolutely do not care about pleasing others if it comes at the cost of someone's health. There's a thin line between being tough and watching out for your health. This sport can be brutal. These guys sacrifice a lot of their life in and out of the cage. There's no need for excess damage if it can be avoided. Most people forget they're human too." The coach also made it clear that there would be no excuses for the defeat, only reflection and recovery. "Zero excuses for this loss. We knew what we were going for. We are not happy with this performance, but for now, recovery first. Evaluate some stuff, and we will be back next year. It has been an amazing year overall, and thankful for all the highs and lows in life." De Ridder, who entered the UFC earlier this year after a decorated run in one championship, remains one of Europe's most accomplished grapplers and middleweight prospects. Despite the setback, Ozkan's words hint that the Dutch fighter is far from done. "Proud of you, my brother, RDR. We've come a long way. All love." With that, it seems de Ridder's team is choosing healing and perspective over haste, a refreshing stance in a sport that often demands warriors to keep fighting when they shouldn't.
Joe Rogan has officially joined the growing list of voices pushing for one of the most hyped fantasy matchups in modern MMA, Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones, and he believes there's no stage bigger than the upcoming UFC White House event next summer. Following Pereira's thunderous 80-second knockout win over Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 320, the Brazilian knockout artist made it clear that his next goal isn't another title defense. It's a super fight with Jon Jones, ideally at heavyweight, and ideally on the most politically and culturally charged stage possible, the White House lawn. While UFC CEO Dana White has expressed skepticism about Jones' reliability after his long layoff and refusal to face interim champion Tom Aspinall, that hasn't stopped the chatter. And now one of MMA's most influential voices is throwing fuel on the fire. On a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan laid out why his fight, in his eyes, would transcend the sport. The big money fight is Alex and Jon Jones at the White House. Are you effing kidding me? Catch weight. Make it 225. It doesn't have to be for a title. Make it the baddest mother for upper edition. He went on to argue that the stylistic and narrative clash between the two is unmatched in MMA history. The sport's most dominant all-around fighter versus one of the most terrifying knockout artists to ever set foot in the octagon. The Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira fight would probably be the biggest fight in human history, Rogan continued. As a matchup, you have the greatest of all time in Jon Jones, and arguably the most destructive striker that's ever competed. No one is like that guy, Poatan. The idea of a White House fight night, once unimaginable, has gained real momentum in recent months, following reports that the UFC is planning a massive June 14th event in Washington, D.C., with presidential backing. Jones, who initially retired after defeating Cyril Gane in 2023, has recently hinted at a comeback, teasing fans with cryptic messages suggesting that if the right fight presented itself, he'd answer the call. Rogan, who's seen the sport evolve from smoky regional shows to billion-dollar global spectacles, believes this matchup is exactly that kind of fight, the perfect storm of legacy, power, and spectacle. If Jon really thinks he's going to fight Alex Pereira, he's getting ready. He's at least getting ready in his mind. With Pereira now holding the light heavyweight title for a second time and Jon's name once again surfacing in UFC boardroom conversations, Rogan's comments reflect what fans around the world are thinking. If there's ever a fight to make history, this is it. Whether Dana White can make it happen and whether Jon Jones actually steps up remains to be seen. But if Rogan's right, Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones at the White House could be the kind of fight that redefines what's possible in combat sports.
BKFC has been steadily growing its presence in the combat sports world, and the promotion seems to be hitting new levels of visibility, especially since former UFC double champion Conor McGregor got involved. Over the past 18 months, BKFC has managed to sign a mix of well-known former MMA fighters and rising stars, and that influx of recognizable names has helped the promotion expand its reach and gain credibility. The most recent event, held in Hammond, Indiana, highlighted that growth, not only with explosive knockouts, but also with moments that go viral for reasons outside of typical fight action. In the welterweight main event, Bryce Henry made headlines for an unusual display of calm and focus, playing chess in the corner between rounds before knocking out his opponent. This kind of theatrical and memorable moment underscores BKFC's ongoing strategy of blending high-level combat with entertainment to attract attention. The promotion's president, Dave Feldman, has recently announced that BKFC is partnering with actor Mark Wahlberg to further boost its visibility. Wahlberg, who is well known for his role in fighting-themed films like The Fighter, has a personal interest in combat sports and will be helping with a new docuseries focused on the promotion. Feldman revealed that Wahlberg has agreed to contribute to the project, though the specifics of his involvement remain unclear. BKFC previously launched the docuseries Deep Cuts, which followed Mike Platinum Perry's journey as a BKFC fighter, culminating in his fight against Luke Rockhold. And Wahlberg's participation is expected to generate even more attention for this upcoming series. BKFC has also continued to stage high-profile matchups that could shape its legacy in the combat sports world. Earlier in October, Mike Perry scored a major win against former UFC star Jeremy Stephens, a victory that not only added to Perry's growing reputation, but also opened the door to a potential future matchup with Conor McGregor himself. This demonstrates BKFC's strategy of leveraging recognizable names from the MMA world to generate buzz, while also giving rising stars a platform to make a name for themselves. The promotion's approach to entertainment extends beyond signing big names. Fighters like Bryce Henry have shown that BKFC events can produce moments that stand out, even in a brutal sport where focus and precision are critical. Henry, a 24-year-old with a professional boxing record of 7-1, moved to bare-knuckle boxing and has now secured 6 straight wins, all by stoppage, demonstrating his lethal effectiveness inside the BKFC ring. The chess-playing moment between rounds in Indiana exemplifies how the promotion encourages personalities and memorable moments, helping it stand apart from other combat sports organizations. BKFC's current trajectory suggests that the promotion is not only focused on the fights themselves, but also on creating spectacle, building fighters' individual brands, and increasing mainstream exposure through collaborations like the one with Wahlberg. With Conor McGregor's involvement,
Perry's high-profile victories, and moments like Henry's chess game between rounds, BKFC seems poised to continue growing as a recognizable and entertaining combat sports brand, striving to rival more established promotions in popularity and influence. The combination of skilled fighters, viral moments, and celebrity partnerships indicates that BKFC is actively shaping its identity as a promotion where excitement and unpredictability are at the forefront.
The potential matchup between Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett is shaping up to be one of the most intriguing storylines in the UFC heading into 2026, with both fighters bringing a mix of star power, skill, and personal history that could make it a headline-grabbing main event. According to Shaman Rock, a training partner of Pimblett at Next Generation Liverpool, the Liverpool fighter is fully committed to preparing for a high-stakes bout, emphasizing the intensity and consistency of his training regimen. Rock highlighted that Pimblett is sparring twice a week, lifting twice a week, and consistently receiving massages, underscoring that these efforts are far from casual. They are focused preparation aimed at a specific goal, suggesting that Pimblett is mentally and physically locked in on the possibility of facing Topuria. The fight has gained considerable attention as UFC plans have evolved. Initially, the promotion reportedly intended to give Justin Gaethje the next lightweight title shot, but the focus appears to have shifted toward a Topuria-Pimblett clash, a decision likely driven by both fighters' marketability and the compelling narrative that exists between them. The tension between Topuria and Pimblett has deep roots, dating back to March 2022 when they physically confronted each other at a hotel during a UFC event in London. That altercation was sparked by a social media post from Pimblett in early 2021, referencing the 2008 Russian invasion of Georgia, which Topuria found offensive given the loss of people he knew during that conflict. The confrontation escalated when Pimblett threw a hand sanitizer bottle at Topuria, who retaliated before being separated by security. Their animosity has not faded since that incident. Later in 2022, they were placed on the same card at UFC 282, and tensions nearly boiled over again during the pre-fight press conference. Security had to intervene when Topuria tried to approach Pimblett, highlighting that their rivalry is more than just promotional talk. It has a genuine personal dimension that could add an extra layer of intensity to any future encounter. Topuria's credentials make him the clear favorite going into the fight. He captured the vacant UFC lightweight championship at UFC 317 with a first-round knockout of Charles Oliveira, becoming the 10th fighter in UFC history to hold titles in 2 divisions, after previously reigning as featherweight champion. With a perfect 17-0 record and dominant wins over elite competition, including Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and Oliveira, Topuria has demonstrated that he is capable of performing at the highest level across multiple divisions. While this bout would only be his second fight at lightweight, his skills and accomplishments suggest he is fully capable of defending the title against a dangerous and rising contender like Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett has also earned his spot in this discussion through his own achievements. Since joining the UFC from Cage Warriors over 4 years ago, he has remained undefeated, building a reputation for dramatic finishes and entertaining pre-fight antics that have made him a fan favorite. Following his third-round TKO over Michael Chandler at UFC 314, Pimblett climbed to number 10 in the lightweight rankings and has been vocal about his desire to face Topuria next. Pimblett has acknowledged areas for improvement, particularly in his striking timing, but he has expressed confidence in his grappling and overall ability to compete against the reigning champion. UFC 324, slated to be the first numbered event under the promotion's new Paramount broadcast deal, represents a significant moment for both the organization and the fighters. With Paramount having signed a $7.7 billion deal for broadcast rights over 7 years, the promotion will want a marquee main event to establish the partnership. The combination of Topuria's championship credentials, Pimblett's fan appeal, and the personal animosity between the two makes this matchup a natural choice to headline the inaugural Paramount card. Dana White has confirmed that matchmaking for the January card began in mid-October, and while the UFC has not officially announced the Topuria-Pimblett fight, both fighters have publicly acknowledged the possibility, with Pimblett suggesting he has already signed his contract, while noting Topuria has not.
The rivalry, the stakes, and the context of the new broadcast deal all contribute to making this a high-profile event. Topuria's dominant record and status as a top pound-for-pound fighter provide a storyline of a reigning champion defending his title against an undefeated, energetic challenger who has a proven ability to excite the audience. Pimblett's dedication, training consistency, and willingness to take on the challenge of facing a multi-division champion reflect his ambition and readiness to compete at the highest level.
Manon Fiorot looks determined to keep her momentum rolling after her impressive performance against Jasmine Jasudavicius at UFC Vancouver. The French flyweight's win was decisive, putting her right back in the conversation for a future title shot after the setback she experienced against Valentina Shevchenko. That loss had slowed her climb toward the championship, but Saturday night reminded fans why Fiorot is considered one of the top talents in the division. With her victory, she demonstrated that she has the tools, preparation, and mindset to remain a serious contender in the women's flyweight landscape. In the aftermath of the fight, Fiorot spoke candidly about the adjustments she made during her camp leading up to UFC Vancouver. She highlighted changes in her training, her coaching staff, and even her selection of training partners, all of which she believes contributed to her strong showing. I made a lot of adjustments in my training camp, my training partners, and my coach, but yeah, absolutely, it was a perfect scenario for me, Fiorot told reporters during the UFC Fight Night 262 post-fight press conference. She emphasized that the improvements were not just physical, but also strategic, reflecting lessons learned from past setbacks. The win over Jasudavicius, she said, is the direct result of those changes, showing how she has evolved as a fighter, both technically and mentally. Fiorot also made it clear that she has no intention of slowing down. Her sights are firmly set on staying active and capitalizing on the momentum she has regained. "To be honest, I don't care. I just want to fight as soon as possible," she stated when asked about potential opponents, signaling her readiness to accept any challenge the UFC places in front of her. Her focus on fighting consistently is crucial in a division where opportunities for title contention can shift quickly depending on wins and losses. By maintaining this level of activity, Fiorot positions herself not only to earn another shot at the championship, but also to remain relevant and prominent in the competitive flyweight landscape. The victory against Jasudavicius also serves as a reminder that Fiorot is more than capable of bouncing back from adversity. After losing to Shevchenko, many expected a longer rebuilding period, but Fiorot demonstrated resilience and an ability to implement meaningful adjustments quickly. Her approach combines technical refinement with an eagerness to test herself against whoever the UFC deems the next appropriate opponent, a mindset that could accelerate her path back to the top of the division. Looking ahead, Fiorot may only need 1 or 2 more wins to firmly establish herself as the next challenger for the title. The way she carried herself during UFC Vancouver, combining precision striking, strategic grappling, and a composed yet aggressive game plan, shows that she is prepared to compete at the highest level. Her willingness to take fights without hesitation also speaks to her confidence and ambition, traits that are essential for anyone aiming to hold a UFC championship. Fiorot's commitment to remaining active and continuously improving sets a strong example in the flyweight division. Her approach demonstrates how fighters can recover from losses, make tactical and technical adjustments, and seize momentum quickly to get back into title contention. For fans, the message is clear. Manon Fiorot is eager, capable, and ready to challenge anyone the UFC places in her path, making her one of the most compelling fighters to watch in women's flyweight right now.
It seems the rivalry between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira may be evolving yet again, taking on a new dimension that few saw coming. After years of back-and-forth battles across 2 combat sports, a new figure from their shared past has entered the picture: Tunisian striker Yousri Belgarowi. A former Glory kickboxing standout who now competes in the UFC,
Belgarowi reignited interest in the storied Adesanya-Pereira saga following his impressive knockout victory over Azamat Pekoev at UFC Vancouver. For longtime followers of kickboxing, Belgarowi's name is a familiar one. He faced both Adesanya and Pereira during their days under the Glory banner, and he's one of the few fighters who has shared the ring multiple times with both men. Against Adesanya, Belgarowi suffered 2 defeats, but his performances earned him respect for his technical skill and power. Against Pereira, however, he holds a rare distinction. He actually beat the Brazilian in their first encounter back in 2017. Although Pereira would go on to even the score and then knock Belgarowi out in their trilogy fight, the competitive history between them remains an intriguing footnote in the careers of all 3 men. Now, with Belgarowi officially part of Pereira's training circle, the narrative has taken on a fascinating twist. Adesanya and Pereira's rivalry has been one of the most talked about in modern combat sports, beginning in kickboxing, where Pereira twice defeated Adesanya, and continuing in the UFC, where each man holds a win over the other. For a fighter like Belgarowi, who is now forging his own path in the UFC, joining forces with Pereira adds layers of intrigue to any potential future showdown with Adesanya. After his win in Vancouver, Belgarowi was asked about the possibility of facing his old rival again, this time under MMA rules. He didn't hesitate to express interest, though he chose his words carefully. "He's an exciting guy, a great striker. I'm sure it would be a beautiful fight. I don't have personal issues with him. He's done a lot for the sport, for himself. So it wouldn't make sense to call him out right now, but down the line, if that fight makes sense, I'm sure it's going to be very, very cool to make that one." Belgarowi's measured tone reflects a fighter who understands the long game. He's not looking to leapfrog his way into the spotlight with trash talk or forced rivalries. Instead, he's focused on building momentum and earning his place among the elite. Still, his connection to both Adesanya and Pereira makes his presence in the UFC an instant talking point. Fans already know how explosive the striking exchanges between these 3 men can be, and the idea of Belgarowi eventually stepping into the octagon with Adesanya, possibly with Pereira in his corner, is the kind of narrative that fuels excitement in the fight world. For Adesanya, who's currently in a reflective phase of his career following his loss to Dricus du Plessis, Belgarowi's arrival could serve as motivation. The former 2-time middleweight champion has always thrived on rivalries and storylines that push him to new levels, and a potential bout with another old adversary from his kickboxing past could be just the spark he needs to reassert himself. Meanwhile, Pereira remains one of the most dangerous men in combat sports, and his ongoing dominance in multiple divisions only strengthens the mythos surrounding this trio of elite strikers. As things stand, Belgarowi isn't calling anyone out, not yet, but his name is now firmly back in the conversation. The combination of his technical striking, familiarity with both Adesanya and Pereira, and his affiliation with the reigning light heavyweight king makes him a fascinating wildcard in an already tangled web of rivalries. If his UFC career continues to build momentum, it's only a matter of time before fans start clamoring for him to face Adesanya once more, this time on the biggest stage of all. In a sport that thrives on storylines and legacies, the reemergence of Yusri Belgarowi in the same orbit as Adesanya and Pereira feels almost cinematic. What began as a rivalry confined to kickboxing rings across Europe has now transcended promotions, countries, and weight classes. Whether this chapter leads to another showdown between old foes remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the saga between Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, and Yusri Belgarowi isn't finished yet.
Max Holloway has never been one to mince words, and this week the Blessed One made it clear that not every call-out deserves his attention. The reigning BMF champion, who has been linked to a potential super fight with former lightweight king Charles Oliveira, brushed off the idea of fighting rising featherweight John Silva after the Brazilian publicly named Holloway as his dream opponent for the UFC's upcoming White House event. Holloway, speaking during a live kick stream, couldn't help but laugh when asked about Silva's challenge. Is he smoking drugs? Holy f***, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. Did he not see what Diego Lopez just did to him? This guy's gotta be trolling us, bro. That F still concussed, bro. Whatever he's saying, we're not going to take it serious. Dude, stay concussed, bro. The comments immediately made waves online, typical of Holloway's mix of humor and bluntness that has long endeared him to fans. For him, the matchup simply doesn't make sense. Silva, while talented and exciting, is still early in his UFC journey, while Holloway remains one of the sport's most respected veterans, fresh off main events and title bouts against some of the biggest names in mixed martial arts history. Holloway's focus right now is on legacy fights, the kind that carry meaning, name value, and the sort of stakes that fit the BMF title holder's ambitions. And Charles Oliveira, with whom Holloway shares unfinished business, checks all those boxes. The two fought a decade ago, in 2015, but that contest ended abruptly when Oliveira suffered a freak injury just minutes into the first round. Both have since evolved dramatically, Oliveira into a record-setting submission machine and former lightweight champion, and Holloway into a featherweight legend who has faced the best of multiple divisions. A rematch between them now, at very different stages of their careers, would feel like the perfect full-circle moment. Still, Holloway isn't making any promises. When asked about the proposed UFC at the White House event rumored for next summer, he cautioned fans not to read too much into early speculation. The White House card is just so far away, he said, following UFC Rio. It's like a year, boys. I don't know if I want to wait that long, but we'll see what happens. Never say never. It's so far away. If we take that fight, it's almost going to be a year I'm out of competition if the fight happens on the White House card. That sense of restlessness is typical of Holloway, who has always been one of the UFC's most active and entertaining fighters. Known for his volume-striking, unbreakable chin and relentless pace, he's built a career on taking on all comers, from Dustin Poirier and Alexander Volkanovski to Yair Rodriguez and Justin Gaethje. But at this stage, every move matters. After years of battling the division's elite, Holloway is more strategic than ever about who he fights next and when. His most recent outing came at UFC 318 earlier this year, where he defeated Dustin Poirier in what would turn out to be the Diamond's final MMA appearance. The victory was vintage Holloway, a showcase of durability, heart, and precise striking that reminded the world why he's still one of the best pound-for-pound fighters alive. Unfortunately, an injury suffered in that fight has kept him on the sidelines ever since, delaying his plans for a quick turnaround. Now, as 2026 approaches, Holloway seems content to heal up, stay sharp, and wait for the right opportunity. Whether that comes in the form of a rematch with Oliveira, a showdown with another top contender, or even a move back to lightweight for a blockbuster matchup, one thing is certain: Max Holloway will only step into the octagon for fights that make sense financially, competitively, and historically. As for John Silva's dream fight, that one will stay a dream for now. Holloway's response said it all. He's not interested in entertaining fantasy matchups with fighters who haven't earned their spot beside him. When you've built a career fighting legends, you don't look backward, only forward. And for Max Holloway, the next chapter is about cementing his legacy as one of the greatest to ever do it.